right, welcome back again, Peter Mutual Artists. We are in Block 1, Week 3 of art class now for virtual learning. As you may have noticed, you haven't had to turn in any of your art projects yet. And that's because I kind of wanted to go over how we will be turning in our art projects. This week, you will be turning in 2 separate art projects in 2 separate ways. The first thing that you're going to be doing is creating a flip grid. And when you make this flip grid answer for me, what you're going to be doing is showing me your sketchbook cover. So you created that sketchbook cover back in week 1. Maybe you painted it, maybe you used colored pencils, we all had to use glue. So I wanted your sketchbook to have a couple weeks to dry. Just maybe you wanted to add some more stuff. I wanted to make sure it was really finalized before you turned it in. When you share your sketchbook with me this week, you can pick up any sketchbook that you've made, and you are going to be answering a few questions about it. The first question I want you to answer is, what was your favorite part about designing your sketchbook? So I have my 3rd grade sketchbook here, and I might say, my favorite part about designing this sketchbook was that I used these paint sticks. I love these quick stick paint sticks. These are so awesome because they go on really, really smooth, kind of like an oil pastel, but they dry so they don't smudge, and you can still blend them kind of like paint. So I really love these. So that was one of my favorite things about this sketchbook. What did you make on your sketchbook? Describe it to me. This is going to help me learn a little bit about you. Here I have my kindergarten sketchbook. So what did I make on my kindergarten sketchbook? Well, I made my 2 best friends, Ferguson and Gizmo. These are my puppies. I love them so much. So I decided that I wanted to put them on one of my sketchbooks. And then the 3rd question is, what is something you are excited to try out this year? So those are the 3 things that you're going to answer in your Flipgrid video for me. That's going to count as your grade for completing your sketchbook covers and also help me to learn a little bit about you. The second thing you're going to be turning in this week is a picture of your dot. Now, we celebrated International Dot Day back in week 2 last week, and you each created one of your own dots. Now, each of these dots is going to be very, very different because when you start with a dot, your imagination could take you anywhere. I'm going to share with you 3 of my dots. Here's my first dot. I created this one with eyeballs in mind because those eye dots really got me inspired to create this kind of creepy, kooky monster. And then I created a dot in the background that was like a vortex sucking him in. So you can see that over here. And I even added some eye dots around the frame. I did this one in Sharpie, and when I made it, I kind of liked it in black and white, so I just left it like that. Here's another dot I made. This one, I got a little crazy with the crayons, and I wanted it to kind of look like an outer space theme. I started off with just this red dot and these orange dots around, and then it kind of just grew from there. I colored in this frame on this one too, and I left this one in my sketchbook. The last dot I'm going to share with you is this one. I created this one with those paint sticks again, so you can kind of see those bright, vibrant colors I was talking about. Now on this one, I also left it in my sketchbook, but I think I'm going to cut this one out. When you're cutting out anything from your sketchbook, you don't want your arm all the way over here. You want to be able to flip it so that your arm is on the edge that you're cutting. You always want your hand on your cutting edge. So I'm going to carefully cut this out using my helping hand to hold the page. Now, it's in my sketchbook. It's very hard to cut out because I can't really lift it. If you are a kindergartner or a 1st grader and you need help cutting it out, you can ask a parent to help you do this part. Now, after I cut my dot out of my sketchbook, or even if I leave my dot in my sketchbook, I want to make sure the edges are nice and neat. So in this one, I colored the edge of my frame because I wanted that to be completed. But on this one, this edge looks kind of funky. So I think I'm going to cut this one out in a wavy pattern, since these dots are kind of swirly and wavy. So I'm going to get rid of this edge. If you cut out your dot, you can always display it in your art space to give you some inspiration. If you leave it in your sketchbook, that's fine too. Keep it all together. So here we go. Now that looks much better. I'm going to put my scraps off to the side. Now, to turn in your dot day photo, you are going to need to take a picture of your dot. And that's why I didn't have you turn this in immediately after you completed it, because I want to talk to you a little about how we take a photograph and ways that you can edit your photographs to make them a little clearer, or so that when you look at your dot, all you see is the picture. We don't see what you ate for breakfast or your dirty socks over in the corner. We just want to see your picture. Now, it's really hard to line that up sometimes. So I'm going to show you how I will use my phone. You can also use an iPad. You can use an Android phone, a Google phone. Mine's an iPhone, so it might look a little different than yours when I'm walking you through it. But I want to show you how you can take that picture, and then even if you have all that other stuff in the background, we can get rid of it. Now, for my kindergarten and first grade friends, it might be a little bit more difficult for you to take a picture. You can ask your parents for help when you're taking the pictures. My second and third, fourth, and fifth grade friends, I want you to start practicing this on your own if you have access to those devices. If you're borrowing those devices and mom or dad would like to take the picture for you, that is fine also. So let's get started to see the best way to line up our pictures. So here I have the picture I took of my monster. And you can see that the table is still showing around the edge of the picture. So the first thing you're going to want to do is click Edit. Now my picture is sideways and I want it to be the other way. So I'm going to go to this little rotation tool here to adjust it. It's on auto right now, but I don't really like how that did that, so I'm going to take that off. And instead I'm going to go to the flip up here. You can see the arrow is telling me to flip. So I click that little flip, upside down again. Now it's still to the left. Perfect, there it is. That's exactly what I want for my picture. But it's still not straight. Well, down here you can click some of these, play around with them. Ooh, look how fun that is. But we want to just try to line it up the best that we can. There we go. But I can still see the table. So you can take those little edges with your finger and drag them in. There it is. Now I'm going to edit the photo. So I'm going to click on the one that has all of the editing tools. Now auto edit will take away any of the major things that are wrong with it. You might want to start with auto. But I don't like how dark my photo is. As you click on each button, it tells you what it does. Exposure means to make it brighter. Darker. Brighter. Ooh, I kind of like that. So you can drag it around and see how that works for you. Brilliance makes it very bold and fun. Highlights make the light parts lighter, and shadows make the dark parts darker. Now, since mine doesn't have any color, it's not doing a whole lot there. Contrast will make the lights and darks very different from one another. Brightness is a lot like exposure. So if you do this, it will brighten up your light areas or darken. So it's almost like turning the lights on in the room. I'm going to brighten mine up a little bit. Your black point will make your blacks very dark. So here you can see they're turning kind of gray. Now they're getting darker. So I like this image right here. I think this is a pretty good image to submit for my artwork. I'm going to walk you through on how to do a few things with color now. I'm going to line it up the best I can. Now, we don't want it like this. We don't want it like this. We don't want it like this. You want to make sure that you have it right over top. And if you can get it lined up pretty good, you won't have as much to edit. Let's check it out. All right, it's pretty even, but it's kind of gray. So you'll go back and do the same thing. I like to start with auto. That kind of gives me a good starting point. I'm gonna pull up my exposure just a tad. But then with color, you see these ones? This one says saturation, this one says vibrance, this one says warmth. Those are the three that are going to play with your color. Saturation makes all of your colors really glowy. So if you pull up that saturation really, really high, it's going to make it look like a highlighter did your picture. Or really, really low, it's going to turn it into black and white. I'm just going to pull up the saturation a little bit because on my actual artwork, the colors are pretty bright and they didn't show up as bright when I took the picture. My vibrance will also make those colors kind of glow. So you can see here, the yellows fade away. Here, those yellows are really popping. So we want to kind of find a spot where it looks most like your actual artwork. The warmth and the coolness. Let's say that you're taking this picture in a room where the light bulbs in the room are kind of yellow. And no matter how hard you try, you can't get the picture to look white. Or your greens are looking a little bit yellow instead of green. You can play around with this. You can see how yellow it looks when I make it warm, like the warm colors. Or how everything gets a little chillier when you drag it down. Even those yellows are looking green now when I make it cooler, like the cool colors, green, blue, and purple. For this one, I'm going to leave it right in the middle because when I look at my actual artwork, that's about it. So I hit done. Now I have two images that are ready to go. There it is. Now that you have a really excellent photograph to submit, you can follow the directions in the assignment for how to choose that photo and add it in to our gallery. Thank you so much for submitting your artwork this week. I cannot wait to check them out. Now, that is not all we are doing this week. You're turning in those two assignments, but you're also going to have another fun creation. You didn't think art class this week was only going to be turning in artwork from other weeks, did you? So this week we are going to be learning a little bit more all about you. I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of want to know some stuff about my students. So instead of just telling me about your sketchbook cover, there's another activity that we are going to be doing. So grab your sketchbook and we're going to open it up and find your All About Me page.